My God, I can't believe they let me through.
Good day everyone, and thanks for tuning in. For the fourth time on this trip, I say hello to Suvarnabhumi International Airport. I'm really excited to embark on this epic flight today, and I'll share with you why.
And good morning guys, I'm coming to you from Suvarnabhumi Airport here in Bangkok. I left my hotel at about 5:30 this morning and it is just about 6 a.m. now. So today I begin my 31-hour journey back home to Australia via Sri Lanka. Yes, it is going to be a long commute for me from here in Bangkok to Colombo and then to Melbourne with SriLankan Airlines. Thankfully, I'm in business class the entire way. So for this video, we are going to be concentrating on the flight review on SriLankan Airlines between Bangkok and Colombo. It is an A320, I believe, so it is a short-haul regional configured business class cabin. I'm actually really looking forward to the food on SriLankan because I've heard wonderful things about it. Yes, and this is one of the reasons why I chose to fly them on this mega trek back to Australia. So without further ado, let's head into check-in and let's get this journey started. Let's do this.
If you're new to my channel, my name's Ryan. Born and bred in Singapore, I now call Australia home. I'm also a creator of heaps of food and travel related content. This flight on SriLankan Airlines today is just a small part of a wider travel series which started in Sydney, Australia. I flew to Seoul, South Korea, where I ate myself silly over and over again. My first experience on a bullet train saw me in Busan, where my gastronomical tolerance was tested to the limit. I got into so much trouble at the airport there. I was sent packing in the opposite direction after getting denied boarding. I thankfully made it to Thailand afterwards, where an eventful foodie journey awaited in both Bangkok and Chiang Mai. On this day, I'm headed to Sri Lanka, where I'll spend my 16-hour transit in Colombo by the sea at the iconic historical Golf Face Hotel. I then embark on one final long-haul flight towards Melbourne to conclude this series, utterly exhausted and worn out. But the sense of achievement is unparalleled. If you like this sort of punishing itinerary, why not hit the subscribe button and bell icon? Giving me a like will surely encourage me to keep producing more of these videos. So here's the thanks, because your support is very much appreciated. The business class experience begins at check-in, where a dedicated counter is offered for business class passengers and other high-tiered members of the airline and One World Alliance. The whole process took no more than a minute since my seats for all sectors were already assigned beforehand. From the title of this video, you've probably already figured out I got into some kind of trouble on arrival into Colombo. If it could happen to me, I'm pretty sure it'll happen to any other traveler out there who's unaware. So make sure you stay tuned till the end to find out what the hell did I do and how to prevent it from happening to you. For now, we go in search of the lounge. And looking at how Bangkok had just emerged from a COVID-restricted situation for tourists, the rebound is simply astounding. Bearing in mind, on this day of travel, it's only been a couple of months since these restrictions were removed. Think I wasn't the only one who was Bangkok deprived. Did you know Suvarnabhumi Airport is one of Bangkok's most active paranormal locations? During quiet times, these hallways have been known to host a variety of disembodied voices, apparitions, and poltergeist activity. How fascinating is that? Anyway, we're headed for the Miracle Lounge this morning And as usual with lounges in Bangkok, I only have one thing in mind: the food.
This lounge is not too shabby. So let's go get something to eat because breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? Yeah, so let's go get something to eat.
Wontons in a pork broth, extremely comforting savory rice porridge with minced pork balls, plus the usual bacon, eggs and mystery sausage. This was most welcomed, but I really had to pace myself because of the flight ahead. Ooh, I really hope there'll be some delicious, hip-expanding, vein-clogging Sri Lankan curries on the menu. So I really had to remind myself to go easy on the brekkie buffet.
Do you know this lounge has a lot of books everywhere? They're on display, right? See? So there are books everywhere. Very interesting books. You have Barbie's Vendetta, Michael Jackson King of Pop. Yeah, so I thought I'd pick one up and just flip through it because when was the last time any one of us actually touched a book, right? It's fake. It's fake. It's a fake book. It's just a box. Damn it. No Michael Jackson, I guess.
I've been to Suvarnabhumi more times than Michael Jackson has touched his crotch on stage. I never get tired of this view. This spectacular entrance into a concourse reminds me of a beauty pageant contestant sauntering glamorously down the stairs, enthusiastically yelling their country of origin.
That's nice. It turns out the aircraft is an A321neo. I guess there was an equipment swap. It was supposed to be an A320. But yeah, I'm not complaining. At least I get to clock a new aircraft type, the A321neo. So yeah, now it's gotten me a lot more excited about going on board the plane.
After the gate agents chased away eager beavers wanting to board when it wasn't their turn, I was waved through to begin the process. This was most exciting because it's my first time stepping on board SriLankan Airlines. Plus, it's also my first time flying on an Airbus A321neo. With my heart pumping at full speed, I was keeping my fingers crossed a brain aneurysm wouldn't strike me down before I get to the aircraft door. Our aircraft assigned was Alpha November Delta, an Airbus A321neo delivered brand new to SriLankan Airlines in July 2017, making her just under 6 years old at the time of writing. This aircraft has currently been taken out of active service and parked long-term at Colombo Airport. Perhaps an indication of the serious financial problems facing this airline as we speak. I had lofty expectations for the famous Sri Lankan hospitality. So having the cabin crew masked up and standing at a distance as I boarded somewhat brought me back down to reality. That the country was still reeling from the effects of COVID-19 and that restrictions were still in place. So boarding niceties never went beyond the Sinala greeting of Ayubowan, so it's kind of hard to see their smiles behind the masks. Sri Lankan's A321neo has a total capacity of 188 seats, with 12 seats in business class laid out over 3 rows of 2 by 2. On settling down, you'll be greeted by this full-sized, high-definition personal TV and a phenomenal pitch of 49 inches. The armrest holds controls for recline, footrest, and the TV remote. The overhead console comes standard with air nozzles and an overhead reading lamp. This is the extremely generous recline situation which would prove very useful afterwards. There is also this 6-way adjustable headrest which is oh so comfortable. In the center console, you'll also find audio ports and universal power outlets for your perusal. And finally, a couple of coat hooks installed into the sides. Overall, a fantastic regional product for a flight of this length. I made this trip in February 2023. Sri Lanka wasn't exactly out of the COVID-19 hellhole. Restrictions were still in place for mask wearing within the country, but policing it was another story. That meant a modified in-flight service with no magazines. So seatback contents only contained the safety card and a vomit bag. A refreshing serve of OJ was given out before pushback, followed very quickly by distribution of the menu. I noted there was an impressive choice of 4 mains. Although I was a little disappointed there was no Sri Lankan curries on offer. Come on now, that was the whole reason why I chose this flight. Ugh.
Remain seated and do not remove the mask until advised to do so. Adults should put on their mask before attending to their children. In the unlikely event there is an emergency landing, you will be advised to take the bracing position by your crew. The command will be heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. The emergency exits are located on both sides of the aircraft and are indicated by the exit signs. Your crew will now show you the exits closest to you.
And just like that, we take off into the smoggy skies over Bangkok, and I head to country number 4 on this amazing trip of mine. A left turn was carried out after a brief northerly track, and we coast out into the Andaman Sea from Myanmar. We won't see landfall until we reach Sri Lanka, landing into Colombo's Bandaranaike International Airport, clocking a total distance of just over 2,800 kilometers and a flight time of 3 hours 30 minutes. Let's take a little dive into the entertainment system. The flight map is unfortunately not interactive, which is such a shame, because the quality of this resolution seriously beats many other carriers out there. The usual suspects of major releases are there, plus classics, TV box sets, doggos, you name it. However, this modern-looking interface isn't found on older aircraft, so I suppose it's your luck which aircraft is assigned to you on the day of your flight. And looking at the state of Sri Lankan Airlines at the moment, expect equipment swaps to be a regular occurrence. It was soon time for the highlight of every single flight I take, the meal service. As let down as I was about the lack of a curry, I wasn't disappointed by the generous size of this meal. I mean, this has got to be the biggest serve of mains I've ever seen on a single tray service in business class. I chose the chicken teriyaki, which had 2 full, delicious slabs of chicken thighs in there. You heard that right, 2. There was a random sausage which was strange, but this dish was choked with steamed vegetables, grilled tomato, and potato wedges, plus a bowl of fruits, yogurt, and a croissant. If you're asking for seconds after this, I suggest you go get checked that your legs aren't hollow. While the airline is broke-ass, they certainly haven't cut back on the catering, because just like any other Asian carrier in the region, being bound by cultural norms, leaving your guest hungry is considered an insult. So for a foodie like me, it's happy days. With such an amazing lunch, the only thing left to do afterwards is to recline the seat, raise the footrest, and then try to figure out these noise-cancelling headsets. They aren't the best, but they do the job of cutting out most of the cabin drone. If you recall, on my 11-hour flight on Jetstar between Sydney and Incheon, I managed almost an entire season of Kung Fu. Well, guess what? Here on SriLankan Airlines, I was able to complete the season on this flight. Talk about serendipity. One of the major produce of Sri Lanka is tea. So it's no surprise the airline takes pride in showcasing the best their country has to offer. I just asked for a cup of tea, but instead I got presented this elaborate showpiece of china and silverware. Gosh, I can no longer go back to Lipton in a single cup on Qantas and Virgin Australia after this. I mean, how can I? We're now coasting into Sri Lanka, a completely new country for me, so this would be the first time I'm setting foot into the fertile soil of this beautiful country. As we prepare for arrival, you'd think this would be the end of the cabin service? No. The crew come around for another round of bevy service before concluding everything else. So as we descend into our destination, it's time for me to gather my thoughts to summarize today's journey. Sri Lankan Airlines, just like the country, has been portrayed in the media as being on the brink of collapse. Is there any truth to this though? Things aren't rosy for sure, and the airline is said to have no money left in their reserve to function properly. They are the only major airline in the region with no replacement plans for their wide-body fleet, because as everyone else moves on to the 787s and A350s, Sri Lankan is still flying the A330 as a backbone to their long-haul operations. There were plans to lease 4 A350s, but these plans fell through in 2017, leaving the airline chugging along with rapidly aging hardware. The ongoing economic crisis in Sri Lanka has also resulted in fuel shortage, causing Europe-bound flights from Colombo to stop over in India for refueling. But good news is on the horizon, because the airline has achieved a break-even for the first time in decades for the financial year 2022 to 2023, and even posted a modest profit of $3 million. This has come after massive cutbacks and offering voluntary retirement to their over-bloated headcount. With the government taking over the massive debt of this airline, hopefully they'll sort themselves out and manage to find new owners to bring the airline into the future. As for the onboard service, well, keeping in mind the context of what's going on in Sri Lanka today, I found the crew rather distant. They looked tired and maybe their mind was somewhere else, worried about the future with the company. My engagement attempts weren't reciprocated and they mostly disappeared into the galley. I'm thinking their ridiculous start to their workday at the wee hours of the morning in Colombo perhaps played a part too. That said, call bells were answered promptly, and that massive meal, oh my god. You cannot accuse Sri Lankan of starving you on this flight. We're now making our approach into Bandaranaike International Airport. At this point, I wasn't sure if I was going to be given immigration clearance into the country at all. You see, when one visits Sri Lanka, you have to apply for an electronic travel authorization, or an ETA. Similar requirements are in place for countries like Australia, New Zealand, and so on. On the ETA website, there are 3 types of visas you can apply for. The tourist visa, which costs $25, a business visa, or the oddly named Sri Lanka for 2 days transit visa. And the last option is free. So which one did you think I went for? Since I was only going to be in the country for 16 hours, I logically chose the 2-day transit visa. The application was straightforward enough, and when I received the approval, to my horror, it said I was only allowed to transit and entry into Sri Lanka was not allowed. Who the hell transits in a country for 2 days at the airport? Nowhere throughout the application process was this ever mentioned. And since my passport number was now attached to this transit visa, I could not override it with another application. Great. And here's another mystery which I could not wrap my head around. If a transit visa is required for you to stay at the airport to transfer flights, who is going to be checking your documentation to ensure you've got the right visa? Since arriving and departing passengers all mingle within the same terminal and there's no need to go through immigration, perhaps you guys have a better grasp of this strange situation. Let me know in the comments. You have no idea how nervous I was at this point. As the aircraft landed and taxied to its parking location, I was getting close to my contact with immigration. What were they going to say? What were they going to do? Was I going to be strip searched? Is there a Sri Lankan version of the TV series Border Security? I had so many questions but very little answers. As I bid the crew farewell, I was getting closer and closer to the inevitable. The hot and humid weather in Colombo wasn't helping my stressed out situation as I began sweating like you wouldn't believe. I wasn't just getting damp, I was soon soaked in my own bodily fluids of epic nervous proportions. Because why wouldn't I? I've never been deported at an airport before. When I arrived at the immigration counter, I thought the best thing to do was to keep my head down as I quietly handed my passport over. It was the longest few seconds of my life before the immigration officer looked up and mumbled those heavy 8 words I was dreading. "Sir, your visa is not fit for purpose." For the next 30 minutes, I played the stupid foreigner card. I was truly apologetic as I was interrogated as to what my intentions were in Sri Lanka. I had to prove I had money in the bank, showed them my reservations at the Gold Face Hotel in Colombo, and more importantly, I had my boarding pass for a flight later that evening to Melbourne. The questions asked were in quick successions and then repeated again. I even asked if I could apply for another visa on the spot. The officer pointed this visa on arrival, but it was closed. So I stood there not knowing what to do, and the officer was at a loss too. He then typed and typed notes into his computer, which would make Carol Beers very proud. And then he turned to me, and I was really expecting him to tell me the computer said no. But instead, he stamped my passport, shook his head and said, "Next time don't do this again, and please apply for the correct visa. Yes?" And just like that, I was officially let into Sri Lanka.
Oh my God, I can't believe they let me through. I mean, they stopped me for a while and then the immigration officer questioned me, what do I do in Australia? What time is my onward flight? And I showed him my air ticket to Melbourne just to prove to him that I have an onward flight. And I also showed him my credentials, my work credentials in Australia, that I'm an electrician, electrical technician, that I have a job to go back to. And then he was like, don't do this again. I'm gonna let you through this time, but next time please apply for the correct visa. Like, oh my God. Yeah, so I'm officially stamped into Sri Lanka. I cannot believe this. Oh, what an adventure. My heart was beating so fast. Yeah, but more importantly, I'm here now. So let's get a taxi into town, and then I will close off the video once I'm out of the airport, okay? Yeah. And voila! Welcome to Colombo, everyone. Sri Lanka, my first time here. New country clocked, new airport clocked, new airline clocked. It's very exciting to be here. Well, that was SriLankan Airlines for you, and the very exciting journey through immigration. And yeah, that was my experience with Sri Lanka Airlines. So I will leave details of my Instagram on your screen right now. So chuck me a follow there, and yeah, hit me up there so you know my travels in real time. And more importantly, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the bell notification icon so you know every time when I get myself into such a stupid situation again. Alright, in the meantime, take care all of you, and I'll see you for my next video. Bye!